Hi again, it's Tim and Jenna.
We hope you had a great week. Today's lucky guest is Denise from Mexico. She will be answering an integrated speaking question. Also, don't forget to send us your audio or video files for the next week's question at the end of this video. Now let's remember this week's question and look at Denise's answer.
In this question, you will read a short passage on an academic subject and then listen to a talk on the same topic. You will then answer a question using information from both the reading passage and the talk. After the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak.
I think this will help you get an image of what the textbook is describing. Most of you would have read the Aesop's Fables in your childhood. It is a famous book, and I also enjoyed reading it. Anyway, it's a story about a fox who yearns for grapes. Let me explain it for the people who haven't read it. A fox went to a grape farm, but he couldn't eat the grapes since they were too high to reach. The fox was really irritated by the fact that he wasn't able to grab the grapes and eat them. He then wondered how he could make his feelings better. After a while, he found a solution. He decided to think that the grapes were sour. Therefore, he shouted to himself that these grapes will be sour anyway, and walked away. This story shows a case where one rationalizes his acts in order to be satisfied. The fox wanted the grapes, but he couldn't get them. This is the irrational attitude to the fox. As he believes that the grape wasn't ripe, his irrational attitude turns into something else. This action will ease his irritated feelings, and this similar circumstances happen to human beings as well. Question: explain defense mechanism, self-rationalization, and how the example used by the professor illustrates the concept.
According to the professor, defense mechanism and self-rationalization are psychological strategies that are unconsciously used to protect a person from anxiety that is coming from unacceptable thoughts or feelings. So the professor used an example of the fox that went to a farm. He tried to eat grapes, but he could not eat because the grapes were too high for him. And he was so irritated. So he started thinking, how can I feel better? After that, he find a solution. He started thinking that the grapes were sour, and he walks away. So after this thought, he started feeling better. This is the example to the professor used to explain how we rationalizes our acts in order to be satisfied. And this happens to humans as well.
When we look at Denise's delivery, we can say that it's mostly great. Although there were some parts where her pronunciation was a bit muffled and off, overall her delivery was clear. Because of this, we will give her 4 points for delivery.
Next is language use. There were some noticeable grammatical errors such as the professor used, he started thinking, and we rationalizes. The mistakes she made were mostly related to conjugation, so be aware while conjugating verbs such as use, uses, used. For this part, we gave Denise 3 points in language use.
Lastly, for the topic development, she started off by explaining the reading passage and summarized it well. However, we think that the answer could be better if she explained the lecture in more detail, such as including the part where it says his irrational attitude turns into something else. Nevertheless, her answer included most of the important points in the reading passage and the lecture, so we will give this answer 4 points in topic development. So overall, Denise got a 3.5 for this question.
Now it's time to look at next week's question. We will be waiting for your answers, so please send them until next Wednesday. Thank you for watching.
See you next Thursday.
Listen to part of a lecture and then answer the question.
Human beings are social creatures. Therefore, people need to communicate with each other. But is every country's communication method identical? Well, it depends on the region and the culture they live in. And today, I'd like to look into this. There are basically two types of communication: low context communication and high context communication. Low context communication is the type when a mass of information is fixed in a clearly expressed message. Namely, low context communication is always interpreted the same way, regardless of the context. As the spoken language can be clearly understood by the listener, the speaker is responsible when misunderstandings occur. This type of communication is usually used by Westerners who directly and clearly convey their messages. For example, if a child makes a mess, Western parents are likely to directly scold their child for their mistake. Rather than being sarcastic, they normally ask their children to clean up the mess. On the other hand, high context communication is the type of communication which requires a message to be interpreted based on a certain situation or context. As the message is to be interpreted differently depending on the situation, it is the listener who is responsible when miscommunications take place. The listener should interpret the message properly depending on the situation. This type of communication is usually used by people in Asian countries. As an example, if a child spills a glass of milk, Asian parents would probably say, "Doing something great again, kid, aren't you?" with an unpleasant tone. At first, the kid might be pleased, but as he understands the situation, the kid would start to realize that he did something wrong. Like this, high context communication requires understanding of the situation.
Question. Using points and examples from the talk, describe the two different types of communication given by the professor.